Yep, excellent. So, hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to connect with you. We are excited to connect with you and see some of your faces, especially as the semester kicks off and we get to know some of you students who are newer to the program. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ashley Dwyer, and I'm the Director of Career Services and Employee Relations here at Rockefeller College. And we're going to talk all today about the graduate internship requirements and documentation process for Rockefeller students. But before I kick off, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Christina to introduce herself because she will be involved in this process as well. So.
Thanks, Ashley. Hi, everyone. My name's Christina Cardona, and I'm the coordinator for internships and career programming for Rockefeller College.
Excellent. All right. And if there's any questions as we're going along, what we are going to do at the end is a brief demo too, of how to submit this on Handshake. But if there's any questions as we go along, feel free to put them in the chat, and then I can address any in live time when we're done. All right, or closer to the end. I can address some as we go along too, if it's helpful and relevant. So feel free to just drop it in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll get to it either as soon as we can, either during or at the conclusion of the presentation. So, okay. So I think at this point, you guys are aware for the most part of who our support staff is, especially if you attended orientation. But as a reminder, so there's myself, like I mentioned, there's Christina, and we're fortunate enough as well to have Joan Marceau, who's our undergraduate internship and career coordinator. Joan, to kind of break it down, Joan works primarily with undergrad students, specifically our semester in Washington. Christina will work with both cohorts and populations, undergrad and graduate students. I work more primarily with graduate students. However, you can meet with any of us. We're all here as a resource for you, and you can schedule appointments with any of us. So this is a little bit about our roles. You'll see here our contact emails, our drop-in office hours that we have weekly. So that's something we offer. So one thing is that students can schedule an appointment on Handshake to connect with us individually, or they can also drop into weekly office hours, which is no appointment necessary. So we offer them, some staff member is offering these office hours every day of the week. So Christina does Monday and Tuesdays. Joan does Wednesdays. I do Thursdays and Fridays. So it's not one or the other. You can come to office hours and schedule an appointment outside of those hours too. So it's whatever works best for you. So we're also joined by Julia Rios, who's our new graduate assistant. We're happy to have her on board, and she will be really overseeing our main email, rockefeller.careers@albany.edu. So she'll be addressing a lot of questions that come in from you guys regarding different aspects of our services and programs and things that we offer here at Rockefeller through our office. So you guys have got to know her a little bit through that capacity as well. Okay. So I think many of you are aware of this as well, but just as an overview. So the MPA, which is the Masters of Public Administration, and the MIA, Masters of International Affairs, those programs have an internship requirement. The MPA requires 350 hours, and the MIA requires 400 hours. Now, this is not credit bearing. This is a graduation requirement. So what that means is you do not have to necessarily you're not signing up for a course, a credit bearing course, to align with this internship and meet that requirement. Rather, you're pursuing an internship that aligns with our criteria. You will be tracking the internship on Handshake. We'll be going over that I'll be going over that process shortly, and meeting with me prior to graduation to make sure you fulfilled that requirement. So that's how we track it and hold students accountable, for lack of a better word, in terms of ensuring they've done that internship piece. There is also an internship waiver option for these two programs as well. We'll be going over that in a later slide. Otherwise, if you're in one of these programs, you will be expected to complete 350 or 400 hours, depending on the program. And so for our other programs, and I'll as I go through, I'll be answering a lot of questions as well. But for the other programs, our MA programs, specifically in political science or criminal justice, they do not have an internship requirement to graduate like the MPA and the MIA do, but they're encouraged. So it's more optional, but they're strongly encouraged, and we strongly encourage you to do an internship. And those programs can receive credit because it's not a graduation requirement. So I know it's a little convoluted and complicated in that sense. But so if you are at political science or criminal justice masters, you have that option to pursue an internship for credit or not for credit. So you know, there's no specific rules or regulations. If you're doing an internship, you have to do it for credit. Obviously, that's not true. It's not true for our MPA or MIA students. So you could, the MA students can pursue credit or not pursue credit depending on it. They can, you know, all programs can do unpaid internships, paid internships, so long as they meet our criteria, which we'll go over shortly too. Now, there's probably a few combined students in the group here today, or who will be watching this recording. So we have bachelor's and master's combined programs. So what's important to note for our combined students, meaning they're going right in an accelerated pace from the bachelor's to the master's. What's important to note for them is that you must complete your undergraduate requirements, academic requirements, and officially graduate with your bachelor's before starting or counting the graduate internship requirement for your MIA or MPA program. So I get that question a lot, and I'd love to be able to say, yes, you can do that, but that is where we stand in terms of kind of the line of things. And so you have to finish that degree and be a full-time graduate student. Doesn't have to be full-time, but you have to be a, you know, matriculated graduate student only in order to count an internship towards your requirement. So, and another note here is that, few notes for this too, is that international students are going to potentially have some specific regulations related to their visa. So you should consult with the Office of International Student and Scholar Services, the ISSS office. What's likely going to happen is you're going to need a U.S. work authorization to pursue an internship as an international student. It's typically called CPT, but I'm not going to speak too much on this because it's not our area, and I will defer to ISSS. And so international students should communicate with that office in advance to make sure they're getting the paperwork done in time to pursue an internship, things of that nature. So another thing to communicate is that the students must be in good academic standing to be really eligible to participate in your internship and count your internship towards your requirements. So that means if you 3.0 or above. So if you're below a 3.0, you may not be eligible to participate in the internship. There is a process in which you can appeal that, but it's a process prior to being able to pursue and count that internship. So the moral of the story is just stay on top of your grades and your academics, and everything will be okay. So a little bit of what your internship will look like. So as you heard me say in the previous slide, you know, we do need to make sure that these internships across programs, but particularly for the MPA, MIA students, meet our, you know, really twofold, meet our NASPA criteria, which is a set list of skills and competencies. I'm going to go over them. But more importantly, the reason we're holding you to this standard is so that you have these higher level skills relevant to the industry that are necessary to push you along and help you get that next big internship or job, right? Make you more of a qualified candidate post-grad for those post-grad positions. So, you know, we're really hoping that you adhere to this. You have to adhere to this in order to meet the criteria and the requirement, but also elevate you to that next level, whether that's another internship or a job opportunity post-grad. So the competencies and skills as required by NASPA are research and evaluation, written and oral communication, data organization, specifically quantitative and qualitative analysis, program evaluation, policy analysis, constituent stakeholder relations. So a good example of the difference between an undergrad that doesn't have as high of criteria versus a grad that has this criteria. Let's use written and oral communication skills, for example. At the undergrad level, it might be more of the basic kind of written and oral communication skills, whether that's email management, marketing information, marketing materials, promotion, for example. Whereas at the grad level, we're hoping that you're involved in memo writing, report writing, presentations, things of that nature. So that's what we're looking for, is that next step in that skill set to meet that criteria and elevate you and put you in an excellent position to get that next competitive position. So that's really what it's going to do. That's the whole purpose of the requirement, is you're going to be applying what you're learning in the classroom into this professional setting, utilizing these advanced skills to then articulate on your resume and communicate when you're applying in the job market post-grad. So don't look at it as a barrier, but rather something that's going to help propel you to what's next, you know? So location-wise, it does not have to be in Albany, obviously. It can certainly be remote or in-person elsewhere. A lot of our students pursue internships in Albany just because we're right here in the heart of the capital. We're a stone's throw away from the capital, and several New York State agencies, for example, not to mention local organizations as well, and private for that matter. But so I'd say the majority end up in Albany, but certainly we've had many students go to DC, go to New York, go to Boston, go to different areas to pursue their internship, whether it's summer, fall, or spring. So the beautiful part about this program is it's flexible at the graduate level, flexible enough that you could go and do an internship in the fall semester, hypothetically in DC, while still maintaining your coursework online. In fact, we had a student do that last year, so it worked out well. So we're here to support you in that and help you in your internship search and your process, whether it's right here in Albany or elsewhere. And we have resources that can help you seek out those opportunities. And we have partnerships with organizations here and elsewhere that can help, help you attain that next position. So when, like I mentioned, internships fall, spring, or summer, or you can do it year round, depending. I would say the most common time for students, particularly starting out the program, is summer. The summer after their first year is probably the most common time. But we have a lot of students who will pursue spring internships because that's when the legislative session is happening at the Capitol. And so there's a lot of opportunity there to work with different representatives, for example, with the New York State Assembly and Senate. That's just one example. And it's quite busy in the spring semester during the legislative session. So that's another popular time to pursue it. We do have students pursue fall internships. There are certainly plenty of opportunity. What I would say is that spring and summer are more popular timeframes, but you can do it at any point in your program. Obviously, we try to encourage you to do it prior to your last semester. As you see here, don't leave it to your last semester, because then it starts to become, well, am I going to complete this in time? Am I going to have the hours in time to be able to graduate? So we just encourage you to do it prior. But if you are in a position where it's it's spring semester, your last semester before you graduate, and you want to pursue an internship and you're able to do it, that's fine. You can still count it. We're just encouraging you to get started earlier. Theoretically, it'd be great for you to do more than one internship while you're a grad student, if you have the capacity to do so, and that will just give you more experience. Something else that is important to note is that you can span these hours across multiple internships or within one placement across multiple semesters. So like, let's say you have a summer internship, it's going great. And let's say you complete 270 of the 350 hours as an MPA student, but they offer you the option to stay on in the fall, whether it's remote, in-person, hybrid, and you continue it in the fall. That's fine. We'll combine your hours from summer and fall together to meet that 350 requirement. Or let's say you do that 270 in the summer, you leave that internship, you pursue an entirely different internship the following spring, we'll combine those two. That's fine. We want to offer as much flexibility as possible. In fact, we encourage extended opportunities or pursuing multiple opportunities, because it just gives you that different exposure, helps you figure out exactly how you're going to apply this master's degree post-grad too, right? So yeah, and it can be full-time or part-time. We find that summer internships tend to be more full-time. Obviously, you're not taking coursework, so it's more doable for you all during that time. But certainly there have been part-time summer internships, and they tend to be a little bit more part-time during the academic year, fall or spring. We do have a few programs, for example, the New York State Assembly Graduate Scholars Program, that is a full-time opportunity in the spring, typically geared towards second-year master's students, well compensated too, which is great. So obviously that's more of a full-time situation in the spring, works well for our second-year masters because most of the coursework is behind them at that point, right? So it's doable with their schedule, but in fact, we have the assembly coming next week. So if you're interested in that, even as a first year, you should come and talk to them so they can see your faces and know you're invested in this opportunity and you can learn about it. You can still apply as a first year too. It's just more competitive towards the second, but that I still encourage students to come and apply if they're interested in. At the very least, coming is going to show your face and show them that you're invested. So that's just one example for one employer, but for any employer, that's my recommendation too. Let's move on to the next one. So just a little overview, like a timeline of this internship and documentation. We're going to get into the documentation. So obviously the first step is to find an internship of interest that aligns with our criteria and consult with us, right? So some students pursue an internship that very clearly aligns with the criteria. They're looking at the job and internship handbook. They can see the criteria. And maybe they don't need to consult with us because they feel strongly that it's going to meet that criteria. So that's fine. They can just submit the internship for approval, but we do it if there's any question, or even if you just want to confirm and talk through it, it's helpful for you to meet with us just to consult on that. And for us to give you the go ahead. Okay, this internship does meet the criteria, so you can move forward with the application or the interview process as such. Let's say you attain that internship, hopefully, fingers crossed. The next step is going to be to register your experience and Handshake. And we're going to go over that. So that's how we know you've done your internship. Since it's not tied to a credit-bearing class, we look at your records and documentation and Handshake prior to graduation. And then step 3 is obviously, engage, complete, do your internship, which is the exciting part, and start to complete mid-evaluations. We're going to go over the documentation. There's several pieces of documentation after you submit your internship and Handshake. And then the 4th step is complete your internship and submit some of that final documentation, which is your final evaluations, your signed hours log, and your updated resume. So really, once you submit your internship on Handshake, there's really a few key pieces of documentation, and we're going to go through each one. So like I said, starting with find your internship and get approval from Rockefeller College. So first and foremost, Christina is going to be taking over approvals for the graduate internship process. So she's your new point of contact for that. Of course, as a staff, we're all here to help and support and answer any questions, but moving forward, you can connect with Christina regarding internships that you're considering pursuing, and just getting that talking through it, making sure it meets the criteria, confirming that. Any questions at all, any outstanding questions, it's a good thing to meet with her. So if there's general questions, so for example, like I can't recall how to submit the internship on Handshake, can you provide some instruction? You can reach right out to our grad assistant, Julia, in our general email, and she'll be able to guide you. But if you're looking to get more guidance directly on your internship approval status, it's best to contact Christina directly. Now, if you contact our main email, that's fine. Julia will refer it accordingly, will, pass it along to Christina accordingly. So, yeah. So, like I said, internship must be related to public administration or international affairs fields, particularly for those required programs, MPA, MIA, and again, meeting that criteria that we just talked about, those skill sets. So you'll see here, we have linked here, and this presentation will be shared with you guys following the recording too, but hyperlinked in here is our job and internship handbook, where you will find a list of our criteria on page 9 for our graduate internships. Okay. But you can also refer to our website to access our job and internship handbook and all of our other handbooks, resume, cover letter, networking, interviewing, etc. Not to mention our weekly Rock Your Career newsletter, which is the new version is hopefully going to be launched next week. We're in final processes of launching that, and it's very exciting. So stay tuned. But in the interim, you can always, we will still send you some emails, and you can always reach out to us. So, and this is just recommended generally speaking, like meet with our staff to review your resume, cover letter, or other application materials to make sure you put your best foot forward when you're applying, right? Internships obviously are not as competitive as full-time jobs, but they can be competitive in the sense that a lot of students are pursuing these internships. And so you want to make sure you're really putting your best foot forward, submitting a strong application, hopefully putting yourself at the top of the pile. So you can meet with any of us for that. That doesn't have to just strictly go to Christina. You can meet with myself, Joe, and Christina for any assistance on those pieces, the resume, cover letter, or other application materials. Just make sure you're in a strong position with that. Like we've reiterated here, you know, before accepting an internship, and particularly if there's any question about whether it meets the criteria, just contact our staff, particularly Christina, as she'll be the main point of contact to confirm if that counts towards your degree requirements. So you can meet with her. So you're welcome to email, and you can send an internship description outlining the duties and the skills, just to say, hey, I just want to confirm if this meets the criteria, or you can meet directly. Now in Handshake, when you schedule appointments, there's actually an appointment type called internship approval. So you can just select that appointment type to connect with Christina and talk about that process. Step 2, begin your internship and register it on Handshake. So let's go through the approval process and documentation. At the end, we'll have a quick demo. So registering your internship. So you must, and I'm going to show you at the end, which should be shortly. You must register in Handshake by the start of your internship, no later than 2 weeks after starting. It's best to do it. Some students do it before starting, which is fine. Some students will do it right around starting. Some students will say to me, Ashley, I'm going to do my first week there because I don't know who my site supervisor is yet. Once I get in there and figure that out, then I'll submit the internship on Handshake. That's perfectly fine. Sometimes you're aware of who is your internship site supervisor before even starting the internship. Sometimes you're not. So obviously, if you're not aware of who that is, you got to get in there first, figure that out, and then you can submit it. But if you have that information prior or leading up to when you start, feel free to submit it ahead of time or by your start date. Otherwise, you know, get acclimated into your internship, clarify who your supervisor is, and submit that no later than 2 weeks following your start date. So when you're submitting your internship in Handshake, there's going to be several buckets of information that will be asking you to fill out. Not super lengthy, just some relevant information regarding your internship and site supervisor, as your site supervisor will be involved in this process, and we'll go through that. But make sure to provide a detailed job description and include relevant skills, competencies related to our criteria, right? And check for accuracy of supervisor's name, contact information, and other things like hours per week, salary. Try to be as accurate as possible. Once you submit your internship on Handshake, you cannot edit the internship. We can for you, so you can always communicate with us about that. But it's best to kind of check for these details and accuracy. We've had there's been several occasions, not just one student, where maybe the supervisor's email was listed incorrectly upon submission, but we didn't know that. And so the supervisor was not getting approved because they were not receiving the notification. So little things like that is just critical to move the process along, make sure those accurate pieces are in place. So we'll go through a 2-step approval process, first by the career office, and then second by the site supervisor. So first career office will be transitioning to Christina, and then your internship site supervisor. So once Christina approves it, then it will automatically be redirected to your site supervisor for their approval. Again, why it's critical to make sure you're putting the right information about who is supervising me, right? And what is their correct email and contact information. That will just make things happen more seamlessly, smoothly. And so upon approval, you will receive, upon full approval, meaning that 2-step has been completed, both you and your site supervisor will receive a nice welcome email, welcoming you, thanking you for submitting your internship, and laying out next steps as it pertains to required documentation and instructions. So one of the first things you're going to do is submit you're each separately going to submit a student expectations form, and then your supervisor will submit a supervisor expectations form. It's a new Microsoft Form links where basically you're just going through and agreeing to the expectations laid out and you know, signing it at the end. So When you receive this welcome email, you will receive a copy of an internship hour log from our office where you can track your hours that will be filled out, completed, and signed by your supervisor upon conclusion of your internship. So step 3, internship mid-semester evaluation. So you do those expectations form first. The next step of documentation is a midterm evaluation. That's completed by both you and the supervisor separately. So yeah, this is just a quick note here. While you're completing your internship, do so with professionalism and to ensure that you're representing yourself and the university well, right? So if there's any concerns about your internship once you get in there in terms of it not meeting your expectations or something's just not right, and certainly talk to us and we can help walk you through any issues and how to best navigate them, but just a little kind of reminder and tip. So these midterm evaluations are sent, like I said, to the student and the supervisor through Handshake. So you're going to get a Handshake notification, hey, complete this student midterm evaluation. So the welcome email is going to come from our office, but the evaluations are going to come through Handshake. So you got to look out for those Handshake emails. I know you guys get a lot. Just look for the ones that say evaluation, and those are the ones you're going to want to pay attention to, at least for the purposes of this. Sometimes these emails from Handshake go into junk spam for both you and particularly more so for your supervisor because they're not used to receiving these. So check it to make sure you're getting the information you need. We'll send reminders as needed, but it's best if you can access it on the first try and stay on top of it in a timely fashion. And you might tell your supervisor, which we do as well, to check their junk spam folder because they're not used to receiving Handshake emails. Kind of, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you can obviously meet with Christina to discuss these, your experience, the process, these evaluations, but any concerns or next steps in your placement too. So step 4, finish your internship and submit final materials. So this is final documentation, final evaluations, hour log, signed and updated resume. So similar to the midterm, towards the end of your internship, towards the end of the term, you'll get a final evaluation for both you and your supervisor through Handshake separately. So again, checking Handshake, checking your junk spam. That internship hour log that we share with you in the welcome email, you'll want to be filling that out as you go along in the internship. The good news is it's calculated to do the math, the total math for you. So you just have to fill out your daily hours, which is nice. And you're going to fill that out. You're going to sign it. Your supervisor will sign it and you will upload it to Handshake upon conclusion. And the final documentation is you'll be submitting an updated resume with your new internship included on that resume to Handshake, similar to your hours log. So we recommend that all of this documentation is submitted in a timely fashion, meaning around the conclusion of your internship. Obviously, certain things get delayed. Maybe I've had a few inquiries where the supervisor is on vacation, the week in their final week of the internship. That's fine. You can submit it the following week when the supervisor is back, little things like that. Or maybe a supervisor goes on maternity leave. Right? Where do we go? How do we get this, how do we get the supervisor to sign the hour log? Then you'll want to communicate with your internship site and just inquire about the next person who might be able to sign and fill out these documentations because they've been able to oversee enough of your work, right? These are things you can talk through with Christina, with us as an office, if you have any questions too. But the main point is trying to finish these items in a timely fashion, certainly by the conclusion of your internship. We're not going to not count your internship if you're a little bit late on this documentation, but we're just trying to encourage you to do it timely. Oh, I went the wrong way. Any questions, particularly with process and forms and resubmitting for things like that, can go direct to our grad assistant, rockefeller.careers@albany.edu. Be able to give you some quick answers with that. So we talked about this, continuing an internship in the following term and or starting a new internship, completing one and starting a new one. You're more than welcome to do both. And you can, like I said, we will combine the hours from summer versus fall or summer versus spring, whether it's in the same placement or 2 placements, and we will combine those hours to meet that 350 or 400 hour requirement. So you don't have to complete all those hours in one placement, like we talked about. Here's a key thing though with this, is that we track internships in Handshake on a semester basis. So that means if you do a summer internship that extends into the fall, let's say you get to the end of the summer, extends into the fall, excellent. You know, everything's going well, you can continue working for them. You have to submit that internship on Handshake in the summer, and then you need to resubmit it in the fall, even though it's the same internship. So this is gonna feel a little redundant, but this is the way we do it. We don't track them annually, we track them on a semester basis. So even if you're still in the same internship from summer that you are in fall, you still have to resubmit that experience, okay? Obviously, if you do complete a whole different internship, you have to submit that as well, separately in that particular term. That's the only way we can track all the hours to make sure it combines, and typically internships last around a semester. Sometimes they will extend depending or be a year, but for the most part, that's how it goes. And so that's how we track the internships. So, and even after you've reached your degree requirement, we've had many students far surpass the hour requirement, 600, 700, whatever hours. It sounds like a lot, 350, 400, but it really is completely manageable. You know, I didn't do the specific math on it, but generally speaking, for example, it can easily be done if working full-time in the summer for one summer. And it generally can be done over the course of one semester if you're working in the 25-ish plus hours per week. So it's completely manageable, and it's completely common for students to pursue a second internship that exceeds those 350 or 400 hours. So we definitely encourage you to continue to do that. You don't have to stop at the 350, keep going, get the more experience. And we still encourage you to register your experiences even after you've fulfilled the 350 or 400 hours. Helps us track where our students are interning and things like that. And it's not really a lot of documentation when you pull it all together. It's not a lot on the supervisor either. We try to make it as simple as possible. So waivers, I said I was going to talk about waivers. So some of you may or may not be in full-time positions in the field of public administration and policy or international affairs, right? So if that's the case, and you really want to count this position, you know, towards your internship requirement, and you feel as though it's a relevant position and aligns well with our criteria, then I would encourage you to apply. You're welcome to apply to an internship waiver. So the internship waiver is an application where you submit a lot of information about your full-time position, a lot of logistical information about it, again, being detailed on the description and the duties as it aligns with our criteria. And it's where you're going to fill out all the information on that. Once it's submitted, I actually handle this process. So I will review the position against our criteria, evaluate it, and follow up with the student on a decision. Similar to internship approvals, you are encouraged and welcome to reach out to me or a general email for general questions. But for me, if you want to meet to discuss your position and whether it meets the waiver criteria prior to submitting the application, you're welcome to do so. Sometimes students will submit the application and I need a little more information on their position. And so I might say, let's schedule a time to meet so we can clear up a few things on your application. So you can meet with me prior, or I might request to meet with you after the fact. Or if your position clearly aligns with our criteria, then, you know, likely move forward with that decision, whether it's approved or not approved, depending on the application. There's really 2 ways to have your internship waiver approved. The first is what we call significant past work experience, which means you have a minimum of 2+ years of relevant work experience prior to starting your program. The second way is with a contingency, and it's called concurrent work experience, meaning you have less than 2 years in that position or in the field, and you're going to be, you know, working while in the program to get to that 2 years and beyond. So both are approved. They're both, if you're approved concurrent or with significant work experience, doesn't matter, you're approved. The only difference is a concurrent approval will require proof of employment basically employment verification once per academic year from your supervisor. Just a brief note, we can talk more about this, confirming your position, your dates, your title, et cetera, to kind of make sure you're in that position still working towards that. So if you're interested in applying for the waiver, you can fill out this application form. Again, you're more than welcome to meet with me. I would encourage it, or reach out to me with any questions about this process. A big note here is it cannot be submitted in the final semester of your program. So if you're considering submitting an internship waiver, we really deter this being submitted in the last semester, because if we have a situation where the waiver is not where your application is not meeting the waiver requirements, then we're in a little bit of a conundrum because you're preparing to graduate. So it's better to do so sooner than later if this is the route that you want to take. Now, I've worked with students who work full-time in positions and say, I'm in this position, it's not exactly what I want to do, so I'm going to look for a new job. So I think I'm going to hold off on the waiver until I find a new job that's a little bit more relevant to public administration or my field. I'll say that's fine. Just make sure it's not in the very end of your program. Or I might have a student saying, I'm in this full-time job, I'm not happy in it, I'm considering leaving to be more full-time as a student, and I want to pursue an internship. Okay, great. So these are options too. So these are some resources where it will help you in seeking an internship, finding information on our internship approval and waiver criteria, registering your internship on Handshake, recorded workshops on our YouTube channel. We have a virtual career series with several recorded workshops. And Handshake is obviously an excellent resource, not only for registering your internship, but scheduling appointments, RSVPing to events, looking for jobs and internships. So it's really our main recruiting site as a university, and it's heavily utilized by employers, local and beyond, to post positions, whether it's full-time internship, post events, participate in career fairs, et cetera. So Handshake is going to become your friend as it relates to career and everything we do from there. So this is our general contact information. I'm happy to take questions. I was going to dive into a demo quick, but are there any questions before I dive into this quick demo? Any questions in the chat? If you feel free to just unmute or raise your hand if there are any questions before we dive into the demo. Nothing? All right, I'll dive into the demo. If things come up, feel free to ask. This is just our general contact information, our phone number, our email, our locations. Christina, I'm located downtown only, and I'm actually currently here right now, but I'm in Mildenhall 105. And Christina's primarily located downtown most of the time, although she's uptown 1 day a week. And her downtown office is 122B?
Yeah, it's 121B. I'm in Mildenhall as well. And then, yeah, on Mondays, I'm uptown in Humanities B16, but same as Ashley, we also have like Zoom office hours availability as well.
Yeah, so you can schedule an appointment. When you go to schedule an appointment, they'll give you the option for in-person Zoom, and for office hours, they're either offered Zoom only, or we have some that are offered in person as well. So, okay. So register your experience tutorial. Let's dive into that. I'm gonna stop share for a moment just so I can pull over the correct. Oh, I lost there we go. Okay, everyone's still on the call, great. I'm gonna pull over Handshake and we will go ahead and share screen again. I think we're still recording, excellent. Okay, so this is a student vantage point. It's kind of my pretend student account here. This is what Handshake looks like from the student vantage point, right? From the student perspective. So this is the homepage. Just to give you a quick overview of this, obviously, like I mentioned, there are upwards of, I was going to say, it can be anywhere from 10,000 to 30,000, 40,000, depending, jobs and internships at one time on Handshake. So that just tells you the extent to which employers are posting positions on Handshake for you guys, which is great. This is an excellent resource for finding internships. We'll be happy to meet with you to go through strategy and ways you can filter and different things that we would suggest opportunities, etc. Now, events is where you'll find a ton of information on different events, career fairs, employer information sessions. So we'll promote this through the email listers, but just know every event we do is posted on Handshake too. So you'll see that that workshop is happening right now. And as you progress down, you'll see some career fairs that are going to be happening, including, and I would highly recommend this, the Government and Nonprofit Job and Internship Fair on Wednesday, October 8th. We will be there. We highly recommend attending. Some really relevant employers for you guys to connect with, different information sessions and things of that nature. So yeah, here's that New York State Assembly info session I was referencing. Of course, we work with other employers too. So the events tab is super helpful. I'm going to jump to the Career Center tab now. Obviously, these are all different and helpful for you. The inbox is a way you can kind of communicate with employers, etc. Jumping to the Career Center tab, this is where you can schedule appointments and track your internship. So I'm going to start with scheduling appointments quickly. So you just click on the appointments tab, schedule a new appointment. From here, you're going to, this is key. Students sometimes often jump right to this. Rockefeller students, you need to come down to this category. That's how you're going to access us. So click on Rockefeller College. From there, you can pick your appointment type, right? So whatever it might be. And as you kind of scroll down, you're going to see one for graduate internship approval. So you can pick that specifically. And you'll see when we click on that, for example, you're going to see availability with Christina, mainly Christina as we progress forward. You'll see a few with me as we transition, but you'll be able to schedule a time with Christina, pick the medium that you want and put in any notes and submit it. So sometimes students will say, I'm applying to, or I'm interviewing with this great internship at, the New York State Senate. I'd love to talk through it, so that's just one option. Going back to Career Center, this is how you're gonna access this experiences option here. Track your internship or co-op experiences. So you're gonna click here. You're gonna click submit an experience. And this is that 2-page form that you're gonna submit for approval by us and your site supervisor. So for the template, you're going to always pick Rockefeller College Graduate Internship Program. Okay. If we happen to, for whatever reason, have an undergrad on this call, for whatever reason, you would pick the undergrad one. So whatever's applicable. For the term, you're going to pick whatever term this is. So let's say it's fall 25, you'll pick that, right? Or spring 26, depending. Typically, we're not dealing with summer at this point, obviously. So with the name of the organization, you're just going to simply type it in. New York State Assembly, hypothetically. Some of that information is going to populate from their employer account. You really only have to fill out the ones with the asterisks because there's some redundancy in this form, but as much as you can fill out is helpful. The experience here is your position title. So let's say we say graduate scholar, hypothetically. There it is. Again, fill out as much information as you can. The experience type will be internship, the employment type, full-time or part-time, depending on the opportunity. The salary, the offer date, did you accept the offer, and when? Then you're going to include your internship site supervisor's email here. And once you get to the end of this page, there will be a page 2 where you'll include more information on your site supervisor, name, title, address, phone number, etc. So very important that this is accurate, the right supervisor and the right email. Again, some additional information, some of it a little redundant, salary, start date, number of hours per week, job title, right here, position structure is important, on-site, remote, virtual, or hybrid. And this is critical as well. Please briefly describe the internship duties in the space provided. So this is where you want to be thorough and detailed about your position, particularly as it pertains to some of our criteria that we're looking for on page 9 of that job and internship handbook. When you get to the next page, like I said, you're just going to see some more information about your site supervisor to fill out, like I mentioned, job title, name of organization, address, phone number, etc. You'll then click submit, and then it will go through that 2-step approval process, like we mentioned. Now, once approved, you can always go back and access your experience, right? And this is where you're going to upload documents, for example, your internship hour log. So you're going to click on Career Center to get back, same way you got there. Again, click on experiences, except here, you're going to see an internship listed here, right? I don't have one in here, obviously, but you're going to see, for example, New York State Assembly, and you're going to see a button that says view details. So you're going to click on that view details. When you get into that internship experience, you'll see an attachment section. So that's where you can attach your materials. It's very simple. It's the same, you access it the same way you submitted it. And that's the brief tutorial. This is your profile up here. I always recommend to students to update your profile as much as possible. I'm not a good example of this because this is a fun account to utilize for, you know, these purposes. But update your profile. My documents is where you can incorporate your resume, your cover letter, your transcript, things like that, just to have on file. Some of those will be uploaded through Handshake Experiences as well. So that's the Handshake demo. So I'm going to stop share here. Are there any questions? I can also stop the recording and take some questions afterwards too. Any questions right now? Nothing in the chat or anything? No.
Not that I'm seeing.
All right. Well, if there's no questions, what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and say thank you so much to everyone for being here. It didn't take the full hour, thankfully, but hopefully it was really helpful information as you pursue your internship and begin to track and start that process. Again, you know, Christina is your main point of contact, so don't hesitate to reach out to our main office or Christina to get connected. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.